Hey everybody, welcome back. Today, this video is going to be featuring two new builds or restorations, and they're both 1980 CBXs. And I'm going to be starting on both these bikes as soon as the 279s that I'm finishing up right now are finished, which will probably be in the next month or so. But this video is going to be the introduction and teardown of these two 1980 CBXs. One of them is a Marysville, Ohio bike, and the other is a Japan bike. And the Marysville bikes are slightly different than the Japanese bikes. First of all, the Marysville bike has their VIN numbers are a little bit different. The engine number is off about 1,700 numbers off of the actual VIN on the bike. So that's one unique thing about the Marysville bike. And this right here is the Marysville bike. So as you can see there, the engine numbers are off about 1,700 or so. And also the Marysville bike has a number 1 on the 5th position from the end on their VIN. So that's one thing that's different on the Marysville bikes. So anyway, this this is the first bike here, and then the second bike you can see there in the background right there, which I'll be featuring the first bike that's being torn down here. So this is the second bike here, and this bike is very rough, and there's a lot of funky things about it, like it's got chrome handlebars on it, and it's got a 900F front end on it, and there's just a lot of stuff on this bike that are not correct, but the engine and the frame and the wheels and the whole rest of the bike has basically been untouched. It's got the original carburetors, airbox, all the electrical components have not been touched or anything like that. So anyway, this whole video will be done in pretty much time-lapse fashion, but at least you'll be able to see kind of what I'm doing there, and it'll be kind of interesting to watch the bike kind of disappear in front of your eyes there. So I'll kind of make comments along the way. So the first thing that I do is try to get the wire harness and all the cables and spark plug wires and all that stuff off the bike before I start removing the engine and the frame and the wheels and all that, because the wire harness and all the cables and everything can get in your way. But I start off taking off obviously all the body work, and then the headlight and the instruments and all of which were not correct on this bike anyway, but in this scene here, I'm getting all the wire harness and everything all taken off, and all the electrical, the wire harness and everything come together at the battery box. It's sort of ground zero for all the electrical connections and all of that. All the systems kind of come together right there at the battery box. And in order to get the battery box out, you have to take the rear fender and inner fender off first, as I'm doing here. And makes it much easier to get that battery box out of there. And then the other thing about this bike is that because it's so rough, crusty, and rusty, all of the nuts and bolts and everything are just frozen solid on there. So it took me probably twice as long to get this bike apart as it did the other one, which is in fairly decent condition, as you'll see. And then this scene here, I'm taking the carbs off, and what I use a very long tire iron with a pipe connected to the back of it, so it's about 5 feet long, and I literally pry the carburetors out, and you have to be careful that you only put the pry bar in strong areas of the carburetors, like big aluminum blocked areas, and you just have to put a lot of WD-40 and pry them off. So, and I always do it before I remove the engine from the bike, because then you've got a lot more leverage that way. So, and here I'm removing the aftermarket 6-into-1 exhaust, which again was so frozen solid. It took me a good hour to get the exhaust off of here, but it finally came. And then you can see water coming out of the back of the pipe there from all the years sitting outside. And as I said, the front end, I guess the fork, well, the whole front end is off a 900F. So luckily I have another CBX front end that I'll be able to put on here. Actually, I believe the forks are the CBX forks, but the fork bodies and the rest of the front end and everything are off a 900F. So anyway, at this point, it's good to have a motorcycle lift, as you can see there, because then when I go to lift the frame off the engine, as you'll see, it's a lot easier to maneuver the engine around, and then at that point you can put it wherever you need to. And I'll be doing a rebuild on this engine as well, like I did the others in previous videos. And then this back wheel was just extremely hard to get off. Again, I spent an hour trying to get everything unfrozen and the chain broken and all of that. So, the worse condition these bikes are in, the harder it is to take them apart. So, I mean, everything's frozen. The axles and everything are just frozen solid. You have to use a whole lot of WD-40 when you're taking these things apart. Then at that point, you take the last motor mount off the top there, and then the frame just comes right off the engine. I had forgotten to disconnect the oil lines off the oil cooler before I took the frame off. So at this point, I'm slowed the video down because I want to explain the rear swing arm on an 80 is much different than a 79. It's got a threaded sort of collar set up, and the bearings, they've got ball bearings on one side and needle bearings on the other. This is one of the spacers or the collars that go on one side. Then you have an oil seal here, and you get that out of there. And then on this side is there's the oil seal, and then on this side is the side with the needle bearings. And as I say, the chain side has needle bearings in it. That's the collar that goes in the needle bearing. Then there's the needle bearing right there. And then on the brake side, it's got a double layer or a stacked ball bearing set up. And I'll show you that here. But first there's a collar here, and I don't have the correct tool to get that out, but you can just tap it with a punch. You just kind of lightly tap it on there. It's not torqued very hard. So then you just unscrew that, and then there is, like I said, a double layer of ball bearings there stacked on one another. And what you have to do, you have to drive them through. And I've got an old socket extension here, and it's the perfect size. You just kind of put it in the opposite side and knock the two ball bearings out. Sealed ball bearings, you can see them there. And there's two of these stacked on top of one another. and then you turn it back over and knock out the needle bearings on the other side. And here are the needle bearings on the chain side of the swing arm. And those can be reused. They're in really good shape. So, and then here's the Marysville, Ohio bike, and it's in pretty good condition. I got the bike, and there were a lot of parts missing off of it, but so it was already kind of torn down a little bit, all the body work and everything. But I do have body work that I'm having painted right now to put on there, and so I'm just kind of jumping through here to get all of this bike apart. As you can see there, that's all apart. So now both bikes are completely disassembled, and now I've got all of the frame, including the 1100F frame. I'm taking all three frames now over to the powder coaters, and so all the black parts, the swing arm, battery box, all three frames, and so on. And I'm heading over to the powder coaters. And this next scene at the powder coaters, I'm going to have some real audio going, so it's going to be loud here for a minute. I just wanted to kind of give you a feeling of the place. So, right. So there are the three frames and all the black parts. And now I'm walking through. He's taking me on a tour to the facility, and it's a really huge facility because right there in front of me is the oven, which I'll show you here in a minute. But all of these big parts and pieces that they powder coat at this place, I mean, it must be a 20 or 30,000 square foot facility. So here's one of the guys spraying the powder on a gate. And then as soon as he gets that all sprayed, he'll put it into the oven. He'll roll this rack into the oven, which is right here. And again, I'm going to let the guy here talk about the oven.
After they get burned off, they usually just get all the bend off.
Yeah.
After that process, sandblast them down to the bare metal.
So then, once they sandblast everything, they get it down to the bare metal, and then that's when they take it over to the guy that sprays. They electrically charge it, and then the powder sticks to it. Then they stick it into the oven that you just saw. So here's the area where they do all the sandblasting. And there's the sandblast gun. And then when you first bring the parts in, the first thing they do is they run it through this thing here, which is, it washes it down with solvent and hot water and so on. It gets all the grease and grime and dirt and all that off of there. Then they take it and sandblast it, and then once it's sandblasted, they take it over to the guy to shoot the powder. So now here's an artist sculpture that just came out of the oven, and as you can see there, it's all powder coated in white. And as you probably already know, there are many different colors. So there's the back end of the oven right there. And then when they're all finished, they lay them aside here for people to pick them up. There's a whole frame of a car there. There's a boat trailer. Looks like a railing, a lot of chairs. I mean, anything can be powder coated pretty much. Anything that can withstand the 450 degrees. 380, he said. So that's going to be it for this video. I just wanted to kind of show you the disassemble process and then the powder coating process. And I'll take another video of these frames when I get them back in about a week or so. And then as I close the video down, I want to show you the outside of the powder coating facility. And then thank you so much for watching. And as usual, please like, subscribe, and share. Really helps support the channel. And then the next video, I'll be continuing on the 279 CBXs. So again, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.